Good morning. I'm Anu Maria Francis, Research Associate at CPPR. On behalf of CPPR, Kochi, and British High Commission in India, New Delhi, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished delegates, advisors, media, and to all well-wishers present here to the International Conference on India-UK Partnership in the Indo-Pacific. We are proud to be collaborating with British High Commission in India, New Delhi, to organize the International Conference on Inter-UK Relations, and we are looking forward to more engagements and conversations. India and United Kingdom have a long-standing relationship that has been further strengthened in the recent years, especially in the context of Indo-Pacific. A strategic framework for attaining UK's national security and foreign policy goals up to 2025 was laid out in the UK government's integrated review of security, defense, development and foreign policy in March 2021. This included giving Indo-Pacific region a diplomatic priority, or the so-called Indo-Pacific tilt of the UK. The integrated review placed UK-India relations within the context of Britain's Indo-Pacific tilt and gave significant attention to the relationship between the two nations. It even described India, the world's largest democracy, as an international actor of growing importance. The two nations have closely kept in mind the people-to-people ties shared between them, which have further deepened with the 1.6 million Indian diaspora living in the UK. This has also been a very crucial reason for the two nations to elevate their bilateral relationship into a comprehensive strategic partnership, agreeing on a 2030 roadmap for strengthening ties in areas such as health, climate change, trade, education, science and technology, and defense. The 28-week deployment of Career Strike Group 21, CSG 21, to the Indo-Pacific, and also participation in the first ever trilateral exercise known as the Konkan Shakti, held in 2021, demonstrated UK's commitments to expand its defense engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. So more recently, even Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also emphasized on the importance of Indo-Pacific region for the global security and prosperity. He also reinstated that the UK was committed to building the broadest presence in the Indo-Pacific of any European country. So as the two countries, which share hundreds of years of history, people-to-people connect, and deep ties, the engagement and relationship needs to be strengthened in all possible arenas in the coming years. I'm sure the sessions today are an open dialogue with a singular aim of bringing innovative and interesting ideas and recommendations to strengthen the ties shared between India and the UK. So I invite Dr. D. Dhanuraj, Ms. Neelima A., Mr. R. Prasannan to take the dais. Mr. David White from British High Commission will join shortly. In this edition of Indo-UK Conference on Indo-Pacific, we have experts from geopolitics, foreign policy, blue economy, maritime security, and technology discussing and deliberating on 5 major themes. The session 1 is on India-UK partnership, decoding the Indo-Pacific. The session 2 is on Indo-UK partnership, addressing non-traditional security threats. And session 3 will be on G20 and ocean governance. There is a dinner talk on Indo-UK relations and the emerging great power politics in the Indo-Pacific, and the 5th final session on Indo-UK partnership, the 2030 roadmap. So before we proceed to the inaugural session, allow me to give a short brief about CPPR. The Center for Public Policy Research is a think tank dedicated to extensive and in-depth research on current economic, social, and political issues. We strive to initiate policy changes by publishing our research and by framing policy debates and discussions on various subjects. The major thrust areas of the organization's research work have been in international relations, governance, education, health, law, livelihood, strategy and security, and urban reforms. So with that, I would like to introduce our chairman, Dr. D. Dhanuraj. Dr. Dhanuraj is a public policy researcher, social entrepreneur, consultant, and writer with prime focus and expertise in international relations, urbanization, urban transport, education, health, livelihood, law, and election analysis. He is the founder chairman of Center for Public Policy Research, public policy think tank, and also the director of Civitas Consultancies Private Limited based in Kochi. So I would like to welcome Dr. D. Dhanuraj to give his welcome address. Welcome, sir.
Distinguished guests on the dais, Shri Prasannan, Ms. Neelima, and distinguished guests of the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to all of you. The United Kingdom and the Indian subcontinent have a deep-rooted history. Apart from holding cordial political relations, the UK is an important trading partner to India and has strategic partnership on wide range of issues like trade, investment, defense, and security, and in the areas of convergence in the rule-based international order. The UK and India share many fundamental values. The UK is one of the oldest democracies, and India is the world's largest democracy. India's multifaceted bilateral relationship with the UK intensified with its upgradation to a strategic partnership in 2004 and has been a significant one. Today, the two countries have committed to ensuring effective high-level cooperation through biennial India-UK summits that was agreed upon at the Prime Minister level in 2015, ministerial meetings, and regular high-level exchanges. In fact, the 7th round of India-UK Trade Agreement, FTA talks, following technical discussions across 11 policy areas over 43 separate sessions between negotiators from both sides, concluded in London in February, and the 8th round of talks is ongoing in Delhi in a hybrid mode, even as we have gathered here today. There is a striking degree of convergence in New Delhi and London's strategic priorities, and that has given their bilateral ties a new momentum, with Prime Minister Johnson and Prime Minister Narendra Modi laying out an expansive vision for the relationship in May 2021. They launched enhanced trade partnership and announced their intent to negotiate a comprehensive free trade agreement, including consideration of an interim trade agreement to deliver early gains. An ambitious target of more than doubling India-UK trade by 2030 was also set forth. The two countries are also committed to strengthening their defense partnership, focusing on maritime and industrial collaboration. The two countries are also committed to closer cooperation in free and open Indo-Pacific, recognizing their shared interest in regional prosperity and stability. The Indian diaspora in UK also plays a significant role in relationship between the two countries. As of 2022, 1.5 million British Indians and over more than 1 lakh Indian students are residing in UK. There are over 800 Indian companies in the UK with combined revenue of 4.1 lakh crore, that is equivalent to 41 billion British pounds, employing nearly 1.1 lakh people. In fact, there are many rapid developments signaling the importance of strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries in the post-COVID global order. On 22nd June 2021, the UK's International Liaison Officer joined Indian Navy's Information Fusion Center Indian Ocean Region, IFCIOR, in Gurugram. A memorandum of understanding between the United Kingdom and India on mutual recognition of academic qualifications was signed on 21st July 2022 that ensures mutual recognition of academic qualifications between the two countries. The two countries have long been involved in military exercises, with one more recent one that was called India-UK Konkan Shakti 2021, which was the first ever joint tri-service exercise, Ajaya Warrior 2021, or the exercise Indradhanush in 2020. The UK has also offered to co-develop a brand new engine for India's next generation fighter aircraft with full intellectual property credited to India under a government-to-government umbrella. There are talks progressing on industrial collaboration in areas such as maritime propulsion, space, and cybersecurity too. The Roadmap 2030 provides a framework for UK-India relations across health, climate change, trade, education, science and technology, and defense. The bilateral trading relationship was worth 34 billion British pounds in 2022, and it is expected that the free trade agreement between the two countries will alone boost trade between India and the UK by 28 billion UK pounds a year by 2035, and increase wages across by 3 billion Great Britain pounds. The cultural and trade exchanges between the two countries have grown in many fields that include cinema and sports too. In this conference, India-UK partnership in Indo-Pacific, we will be deliberating on all these aspects in the next 2 days. We have the esteemed presence of Sri Prasannan Radhakrishnan, resident editor of one of the oldest newspaper in India, Malayala Manorama, and also he was formerly with the Week, one of the widely read and well-respected magazines. He has graciously accepted our invitation to inaugurate this conference and deliver the keynote address. On behalf of CPPR, the British High Commission, New Delhi, and everyone here, present here, I welcome you, sir, to this august gathering. Head of the political department of the British High Commission is with us today. As you're aware, the conference is supported by British High Commission, and David has been constantly communicating with us to get things done for this conference and for the success of this conference. In fact, CPPR has a long-standing relationship with British High Commission in New Delhi. We started working with BHC in 2015, and we were collaborating on various projects, and this is the first time we are doing an international conference on Indo-Pacific with the support of British High Commission. I welcome you, David, to this gathering. We have members of British Deputy High Commission, British Deputy High Commission Bangalore. We also have the presence of diplomats from British High Commission New Delhi. I welcome all of them to this gathering. It's also my pleasure to acknowledge the presence and welcome the dignitaries of the dais. We have with us Vice Admiral Retired Girish Luthra, former Commander-in-Chief of the Western Naval Command, Vice Admiral Anil Chawla, former Commander-in-Chief of Southern Naval Command, Vice Admiral M.P. Muralidharan, former DG of Indian Coast Guard, Professor Atre from Kurukshetra, and many other distinguished guests. I welcome all of you to this gathering. We also have eminent scholars and practitioners who are going to deliberate on various topics the next 2 days. I welcome all of them to this conference, and they will be introduced in detail during the sessions. I welcome you all once again. I also welcome all the participants and delegates attending the conference from different parts of the country. We have students, research scholars, senior faculty members, administrators from academia. We also have entrepreneurs, business heads, and also the representatives from trade and business organizations here in this gathering. We also have representatives from civil society, technical organizations, and of course, media from friends from media here. I welcome all of you to this conference. I also acknowledge the presence of our senior fellows and advisors here. Professor Dr. Lawrence Prabhagar, Professor Dr. R.P. Pradhan, Shri K.V. Thomas, Dr. Shakila Shamsu. I acknowledge your guidance and mentoring of the team and help us to conduct this conference next 2 days. I'm sure this conference and the conversations during the panel discussions, I'm sure will try to realize the vision of the enduring importance of UK-India relationship and of the living bridge between the two countries. The two commitments by Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. I'm sure we will try to accomplish the goals set by the political leadership of the two countries in this conference. I also acknowledge the presence of my colleague, Ms. Nilima. She's the lead of this conference, and my friends and colleagues from CPP are here. Thank you all, and I do hope all of you will have a great experience and learning, and have a great, wonderful stay in Kochi for the next 2 days, and have a wonderful conference experience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that warm welcome. I now take this opportunity to introduce our chief guest for the day, Mr. R. Prasannan. He is the resident editor of Malayalam Manorama and The Week. He is a postgraduate in defense studies and has been a journalist for last 40 years. He has been writing on defense, national security, foreign policy, politics, law, constitutional affairs, science, and current affairs for The Week and Malayalam Manorama for the past 32 years. So I invite Mr. Prasannan to officially inaugurate the conference by lighting the lamp. I also welcome Ms. Nilima, Dr. Dhanuraj, and Mr. David White to come forward for it. The lamp is lit as a symbol of knowledge and the victory of light over darkness, as well as the eradication of ignorance. The event and its participants are said to benefit from its luck, wealth, and uplifting spirit. Opportunity to listen to the words of a knowledgeable and experienced speaker like Mr. R. Prasannan. I welcome Mr. Prasannan to give the inaugural address.
Dr. Dhanuraj, Ms. Nilima, distinguished speakers at the conference, distinguished delegates, Excellencies, Mr. David White, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to be asked to address such a gathering of eminent persons and on such an important but hardly discussed topic, that too in this beautiful city which claims to be the home of every Indian naval personnel. We have the Indian Navy's training command here, and thus everyone who wears or wore the white uniform considers Kochi as his hometown. Like our naval officers and men, I too have an emotional attachment to the place, not only because I was born in Kerala, but also because I started my career as a journalist in this city. Though I moved to Delhi 3 decades ago and turned sea blind, about which I'll talk later. I still work for the Malayalam Manorama Group and The Week, which has its editorial headquarters in this city of ships and sailors. I should also admit, at the risk of being politically incorrect to an extent, and especially today, to also have a certain fascination for things British. As an undergraduate student in the Kerala University, I was the topper in my subsidiary paper on British history, and also won the gold medal in my master's in defense studies in Pune University, where more than 4 of my 16 papers were on British military campaigns in India and elsewhere. I'm not saying all this to boast of my academic career or achievements, but only to say that my readings into military history and strategic studies have convinced me of one thing, that the strategic environment in which a nation-state acts or operates is a fait accompli, legated to it by its geography and its historical experience. Regimes may change over the years, the ideologies that drive a state or its rulers may change. New state structures might emerge, but as the strategic concerns of a people inhabiting a particular region would remain the same across centuries. Let me illustrate it. It used to be often quoted and said during the Cold War that the communist Russia could not escape the history of Tsarist Russia. It simply means, despite being a totally different kind of regime, communist Russia's strategic behavior was much the same as that of the Tsarist Empire. Today, we can say the same about Vladimir Putin's post-communist Russia, that it's not able to escape the history of communist Russia. The worry about the lack of an all-weather warm water port, about being boxed into continental Eurasia, the urge to overwhelm the Nordic regions, the craving to control the Crimea, the urge to control the Black Sea waters, the concerns about a maritime Japan rising in the east, the cautious engagement with China, and the suspicions about outside, especially Western influences in Central Asia, these were all there a century or two ago haunting Russia. They are all there even today. Or look at China, the old imperial China, later Mao's communist China, and now the modernizing post-Mao or post-Deng Xiaoping China. They have more or less the same strategic environment as also the same strategic outlook. Imperial China believed in the centrality of the Middle Kingdom. They had the same concerns about the rise of Japan, of engaging Russia, suspicions about the imperial British in India, and of the maritime might of the Euro-American powers in the Pacific and in the Cold War period. Has anything changed substantially? The Chinese are still concerned about Japan. They are keeping Russia engaged with an element of suspicion, despite all the warmth that we are reading about. They are suspicious about India. Of course, there are no British here now. And of the maritime capabilities of the Western powers in the Pacific. In short, the strategic environment around a nation and its strategic outlook remain more or less constant, even through change of regimes and state structures. With that, now let's get to the topic. The Indo-British cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. We in India don't often realize it, or are reluctant to admit it, that we live in more or less the same geostrategic environment as British India did, and British India existed in more or less the same geostrategic environment as Mughal India. Indeed, there have been changes. For example, the Mughals never realized the strategic value of the oceans, which the European powers did. But we will leave the continental concerns alone, for they have little bearing on the topic that we are discussing today, which is maritime. Moreover, our continental concerns are largely bilateral between India and the state that shares continental borders with us, be it China or Pakistan or Nepal or whoever. Third parties, be they the Americans or the British or the Russians, they can do nothing about those. Nor would we let them do anything. Second, we can build, and we are building, I am sure, the capabilities required to address our continental concerns, be they in the northwestern frontiers with Pakistan or the northern or northeastern frontiers with China. The maritime front, on the other hand, poses a different and more difficult picture. We sit astride an ocean that is 68.56 million square kilometers vast. One peculiar feature of this ocean is that its northern part, sweeping its most inhabited coasts, has a large number of straits, gulfs, bays, and seas. To quote our own maritime doctrine, I quote, "The key to controlling the Indian Ocean lies in controlling the choke points, important islands, and trade routes." Choke points, there are Navy personnel here, they know better. Choke points are to maritime warfare what high ground is to land warfare. Everyone wants to hold high ground and defend himself there. Similarly, in waters, everyone wants to control the choke points and defend himself there. I don't have to test the patience of an audience like this by reeling out the statistics on the volume of trade that passes through our oceans. Suffice it to say that with the rise of the Asian tiger since the 1990s, the Chinese dragon since then, and now the Indian elephant, this trade has been increasing rapidly and is bound to increase manifold in the coming years. Consequently, we'll also witness an increase in the strategic urge by the great powers who all trade with them towards the controlling the choke points. We are one of the longest coastlines to protect, 7,516 kilometers. We have 55,889 square kilometers of territorial waters and 2,013,410 square kilometers of exclusive economic zone. We are getting about 530,000 square kilometers of legal continental shelf for economic exploitation. The deep sea mining area is about 150,000 square kilometers. All these are huge economic assets that need constant guarding. It's well nigh impossible for a force of few battleships and patrol boats to guard so much from not only major maritime threats, but even small state and non-state actors. As a former Navy chief once pointed out, the Mumbai attackers could sneak in easily, pretending to be one of the more than 500 fishing boats that enter every night in Mumbai region's waters. We have 600 odd nearshore islands, many of which remain unpoliced and unguarded. Any of them could be used as a bridgehead for night landing of explosives and weapons to be used against targets on the mainland. Some of our most precious economic and strategic assets are also on the coast or too close to the coast for comfort. The oil rigs of Bombay High, the atomic stations of Trombay and Kalpakkam, the space center at Trivandrum, the steel plant in Visakhapatnam, the refinery at Mangalore, the warship building docks at Mazagon, to name a few, or even Cochin shipyard. These crown jewels, these are the crown jewels of India. These crown jewels are as vulnerable to the kind of threat from the sea as Mumbai was subjected to on 26/11. For a large country with such a long coastline, we have very few harbors and minor ports. For a country with a coastline of 7,516 kilometers, we have only 12 major ports and less than 140 minor ones, whereas Little Britain has about 120 commercial ports, large and small. As Admiral Premveer Das has been repeating ad nauseum, what would be the consequences if a terror outfit hijacks a ship and sinks it one of the 12 ship channels of a major port? Or they sail in with an explosive-laden ship and blows it up in, say, Chennai, Mumbai, or Cochin? God forbid. It took 5 days and 360 lives before the infamous harbour fire of Bombay in 1944 could be doused. Our harbour towns and cities have much larger population now and more economic assets. And Kochinites don't have to be told because they have Brahmapuram experience already here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not scaremongering. These are threats that exist today and could materialize any time in the near or distant future. Sadly, our capabilities to take care of all these is still limited. If the concerns on the continental front impinge only on us, the concerns on the maritime front affect virtually all the countries in the Indo-Pacific littoral and even beyond, up to the shores of the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, and even beyond. We in India sit astride several choke points and are able to control much of the vantage points. We have the capability, but bestowed with a limited capability. We have to augment it. We are grappling with the task of developing a strategic maritime vision. We have expressed concerns, but largely tactical. Let me quote again from the maritime doctrine. Quote, despite the proximity to a coast, the number of people who have ever been to sea is extremely small, and the number who have spent any significant period outside the sight of land smaller still. Consequently, most people have no direct experience to bring to bear upon the maritime discussions or decisions. When large nation states with substantial coastline locate their seat of government far inland, such as India and Russia, the problem is further exacerbated. For a continental power to see the possibilities of maritime strategy is difficult because the problems on the land frontiers are much too immediate. On the other hand, where the seat of government is located on or close to the coast, direct maritime experience is available to a larger number of planners, strategists, and decision makers. Contrast it with the British experience. Nowhere in the UK is more than 113 kilometers from the coast. It's estimated that about 3 million people live on the coasts of the UK. My point is simple. Geopolitics of the past centuries made India sea blind, as I earlier mentioned, and that was a phrase coined by Admiral Mihir Roy, the first visionary director of our nuclear submarine project. He wants to put it in one of the lectures. But as Roy also used to say, we need not be shackled by our geography. History is replete with instances of continental powers turning maritime. The best example is Japan. Let's not forget, Europe and the West recognized and reckoned with the rise of the East early last century after the Russo-Japanese War. It was essentially a naval conflict, and more significantly, it was a maritime Japan humiliating a continental Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought that I am advocating an aggressive or expansionist maritime policy for India, you are mistaken. Such thoughts are as far from my mind as Delhi is from the nearest coast. And fortunately for us or the rest of the world, nobody is going to fight any more battles of Trafalgar. Maritime power is now asserted through strategic engagements rather than military coalitions. The happy thing is that we have friends who share our concerns and also those who have stakes and interests in this region that need to be safeguarded. They look to us to take the lead, and they are also willing to cooperate with us. The British are one, and they knew these parts of the world like the back of their palms till 3/4 of a century ago. They jealously guarded the waters from the Suez to Singapore. I think it was Lord Curzon who defined India's strategic security perimeter. Mind you, he said India's and not British India's. India's strategic perimeter as extending from the Suez to Singapore. Please also note, very interestingly, that he made the state around the time when maritime Japan was asserting itself over continental Russia. I don't know whether he had the premonition, but less than half a century later, the fall of Singapore to Japan told the decline of British paramountcy in the East. I cited this not for the purpose of invoking any colonial imageries, but only to illustrate the fragile strategic environment in which we operate. As I said earlier, we, the Republic of India, inherited more or less the same geostrategic environment in which British India operated. I quoted Curzon from the turn of the 21st century. Exactly 100 years later, at the turn of the 21st century, 2003, Curzon said that in 1903. Exactly a century later, A.B. Vajpayee said more or less the same thing, that India has strategic concerns over the entire stretch of waters from Aden to Malacca Strait. Now, 23 years into the new century, we are seeking to redefine and expand that. It's no longer Aden to Malacca or even Suez to Singapore, but Somalia to Sydney, as Ashok Malik, advisor to our Ministry of External Affairs, recently put it at a panel discussion in Global Forum in London last year. Here we should also take note of the two tectonic shifts that have taken place in the Indian and British maritime policies. Independent India had largely been suspicious of the involvement of extra-regional powers in what we call our waters or the eastern waters. That had a lot to do with our bitter experience we had during the 1971 war when a Western naval power posed a major threat to our strategic autonomy in the Indian Ocean. But times have changed, and we have come to realize that policing the waters in our region cannot be handled by us alone for two reasons. One, the task is too formidable for one country to undertake. And two, there are others who too have legitimate stakes in keeping peace in the waters through which their trade too passes. It's in our interest and their interest now to welcome the friendly ones into these waters, engage them and urge them to consider our sovereign and supreme interests and cooperate with us for global common benefit. We have been making waves in maritime diplomacy in the recent years. We have got Singapore to lend their docks to our warships. We have persuaded the Seychelles to let us build sea scanning radars on their coast and lease their Assumption Island to our Navy. We got Oman to lend us land for building a naval base. We have smooth talked the French into letting our warships berth in their Reunion Islands. We have charmed Madagascar into lending us Agalega Islands for building naval rigs. There is already a logistics deal with the US which gives us access to Diogo Garcia, about which the British know better. The UK too have much to offer. Last year they announced an investment of £23.8 million to expand their logistics hub in the Omani port of Duqm, where our Navy too has docking rights. As a recent paper on British-Indian naval cooperation published in the journal Geostrategy pointed out, I quote, the British-Singapore Defence Support Unit based in Sembawang and the Indian Navy's refueling and logistic support facilities at Changi Naval Base again illustrate intersecting British and Indian interests in the region and thus set the stage for enhanced naval cooperation. This, combined with the power projection capability of the Indian Navy and the Royal Navy, resulting from their respective maritime surveillance and military facilities in Madagascar, Mauritius, and the Seychelles, and Indigo Garcia, illustrate the scale of the potential power that both countries can wield in the Indian Ocean region, unquote. The good thing to note is that the British are back with flagships. I'm not talking about their old sailing ships, God forbid. This time not to conquer, but to cooperate. They still have naval facilities in Oman, Singapore, Bahrain, Kenya, and other ocean territories. They are back to building, owning, and operating carriers. HMS Queen Elizabeth was here a few months ago. HMS Lancaster is right now berthed in Kochi. We are already in the maritime quad with the US, Australia, and Japan, and there is already talk of a quad plus involving regional and extra-regional maritime powers. Post-Brexit Britain, if I understand right, is on an aggressive high, seeking markets and resources far beyond Europe. With the UK trying to reclaim its maritime profile, which it lost in the post-Falklands phase, there is immense scope for them to engage India and other regional and extra-regional actors who have legitimate stakes in keeping the Indo-Pacific a region of law-abiding actors. I am sure the deliberations that are going to take place in the next 2 days here would dwell further on these and other points. You have a galaxy of men and women here who have much more practical experience of working on these than I have. They would have a lot more to contribute, and I am sure the points raised in the discussions here would go a long way and reach the policy-making circles in New Delhi, London, and other capitals from where the destiny of this region is being shaped. Thank you for your patience and wish you all a very pleasant stay in this city, which is also known as the Queen of the Arabian Sea. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. A discussion on rich resources and challenges of India on the maritime front and possible areas of cooperation with the UK and other countries. I'm sure it helped in setting the tone of the conference. So as we have a great expert with us, I think we'll take this opportunity to have an open interaction with our chief guest. So if any of you have any questions or comments, please.
Good morning, sir. I'm Milan. I'm a student from Indian Maritime University. So my question is, Russia and China are autocratic countries and they possess a threat to most of the democratic fronts all across the globe. Sir, how do we plan to tackle the situation? Considering the fact that the recent, Russia and Ukraine war has led to an energy crisis. And this is also creating a lot of turmoil when it comes to, how the Indo-Pacific relations might turn out to be. So how can we tackle the situation?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't get your name.
My name is Milan.
Malan. Okay. Thank you, Malan, for a very interesting question. And it's a very, one most difficult to answer also, because we often are caught in this moral dilemma. But then in statecraft, it often happens. Yeah, we are proud of our democratic traditions. We are proud of our democratic system. But also the supreme national interest also need not always be in promoting democracy alone. We also have a huge need for resources. We need oil, let's admit it. And also, that is at one level. Secondly, we are not believed in export of democracy or anything like that. Yes, we promote, we would promote the interest of democracy. It doesn't mean that we have to export democracy all the time and all that. We have our own concerns here. In this question, yes, we have to find the sort of golden mean between the Russians have been our traditional allies and all that, and we can't just sever relations with them just on a fine day, because we have other supreme interests. Most of our defense requirement is still met by Russia. From there only, and we can't. It's highly risky and all that. So we have to judge according to our requirement at any point of time, without sacrificing the long-term vision. That's all I can say now.
I am Father Churchill, General Secretary for South Asian Fishermen Fraternity from Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu. You have rightly said that India is sea blind, and we have major program Blue Economy supported with the Sagarmala project. And our government is turning towards tourism and deep sea mining. At the same time, you also find out the insecurity in the sea. And many traditional fishermen turning towards modernized fishing by mechanized boat, and they are fishing the high sea. They are not given the communication facilities, fearing there will be a threat of terrorist misuse. If so, how this will help for the security of our nation when the traditional fishermen is permitted or they take the advantage of using the high sea for fishing, when we are making use of the Indo-Pacific Ocean for other development projects?
Communication facilities in the fishing boats is something being now addressed, I think, by the Coast Guard as well, as because they are being now, most of the boats are being equipped with communication facilities, if I understand right. So Admiral Muralidharan would correct me if I'm wrong. It's being addressed, it's a problem. But this is always a problem. When technology, technology can be used and misused. This is something the maritime, the security forces would have to deal on a day-to-day basis. That's all I can say about it, because it doesn't have a one answer to that. It's a cat and mouse game always being played between the terrorists or the anti-state actors and the state police or the security forces.
Thank you very much for your highly enlightened and very articulated inaugural address on this theme. You have highlighted a very pertinent point that despite changes in the regimes, these geopolitical strategies will continue to be the same. To that effect, you have rightly quoted the Tsarist Russia, that is the Tsarist Soviet Union or Soviet Russia, and the present regime under Vladimir Putin. So, sir, can you explain the very recent development of People's Republic of China brokered a pact with Saudi Arabia and Iran, ideologically, religiously, and even rule-wise? For example, Iran is a highly Shiite country, Saudi Arabia with a Sunni-dominated country, And China has brokered and brought these two regimes to a common platform. So, despite the changes, ideological or spiritual or economic changes, China has brought, this is a major geopolitical development. How can you explain this in the context of the present world order?
Thank you. It's a very interesting development that you have pointed to. Yes. But also there is something called nature abhors vacuum. So one perceives, at least China perceives to a certain extent, they are right also. There is a sort of a withdrawal of the American. I mean, America, if you look at it, America, they have always been caught between isolationism and interventionism. Now one sees that trend of isolationism now coming back to the US. I mean, they withdrew from Afghanistan. They are withdrawing from, I mean, the stakes that they have in the Middle East are coming down and down, or they are reducing these stakes. So when there is a vacuum, or when China perceives that there is going to be a vacuum, they naturally intervene, because they think that they are the next power rising in the Asian region at least, and naturally they will come. There used to be a joke at one point of time that wherever there is oil, the British would be there. Wherever the British are withdrawing from, the Americans would be there. Wherever the Americans are there, the Soviets would come. So like that it used to be. Now the Soviets are no longer there. I mean, they are not able to assert their sort of interventionist power any longer. The Chinese are occupying that. So that's all happening. So nature will abhor vacuum. In geopolitics, there will always be a power trying to dominate a region, and the Chinese are trying to do exactly that. In fact, I written my article on this is coming out day after tomorrow only.
Good morning, sir. My name is Dr. Shreya Pandey. I am assistant professor at St. Xavier's College, Ranchi. I take this opportunity to ask you, because you have lived through all that has happened, that right now, as far as I see, we seem to be very buoyant and assertive global player who can actually talk simultaneously to two conflictual sides. So we are doing very well as far as talking is concerned. But what about the military, the somber side of reality? Are we really doing as well as we are perceiving it to be?
You mean to say we talk big but we don't have...
So on the external, on the diplomacy side, we are doing well, I am convinced. But what about all that we have, the inner core, that is militarily and our defense stockpiles and readiness?
Always the urge to intervene, the urge to be everywhere, and the urge to being seen as the big power, because we think we are a big power. That is always there. But at the same time, there are several other constraints that are pulling us back. Because first, of course, we have a huge energy crunch. So we have boxed in by that. Then we have other things which I mentioned, the continental, the restraints that we have. We have two enemies on the northern and western borders who won't let us, or the coercive actions by them won't let us break free out of it. Whereas the several other countries which have been powerful, so to speak, the interventionist powers didn't have that sort of constraints, or when they were breaking free out of that constraints, were they able to intervene in the rest of the world, or sort of assertive military interventions that we are not looking for that as of now, but that's a constraint that we have. We'll have to sort this out at the same time and also assert. See, that's what exactly is constraining China also. So the same thing they also have, because at one point of time, they thought they could engage every neighbor. And even India, they tried to engage at one point of time, and we had a fairly okay kind of relationship and all that. But they are not able to, that's not permanent. We still have problems, that's it.
Sir, I am Professor Muhammad Hatta from Director School of Marine Science, QSAT. I have something related to the blue economy or the science part of it. Because India has got an ambitious project in deep sea mission project or deep ocean mission project, which kicked off but still yet to pick up steam. It is still, kind of slow starter. And we definitely consider its impact in the blue economy, which is projected really, really big, and that's very realistic too. So is there any definite plans with the UK partnership to explore the deep oceans, I mean, especially related to mining, which is going to be very technology intensive because we are looking at real deep waters. So anything on that, sir?
I'm not aware of any particular program or project, but then we have a lot of agreements with the pacts with the UK on in the world of science and technology and all that. I'm sure there will be these kind of things will come up in the further discussions on that. But I'm not aware of any particular project going on now.
So I think it's time, so we'll continue with the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that insightful comments and also for that interesting questions and comments from the audience. So looking forward to your continued enthusiasm and interaction all throughout the conference. So now I welcome Ms. Neelima A., Research Associate with CPPR, who is the lead in organizing this conference, to propose the vote of thanks.
Distinguished guests on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's my honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion of the International Conference on India-UK Relations, titled India-UK Partnership in the Indo-Pacific, organized by Centre for Public Policy Research with the support of British High Commission in India, New Delhi. India and United Kingdom have a long-standing relationship that has been further strengthened in the recent years, especially in the context of Indo-Pacific. The UK government's foreign and defense policies post-Brexit clearly underscores this fact. In recent years, India and UK have increased their engagement in the Indo-Pacific, recognizing the region's growing importance as a center of economic and strategic power. Both the countries have expressed a commitment to promoting stability, security, prosperity in the region and have taken steps to deepen their cooperation in the range of areas including defense, trade, and maritime security. The 2 days of the conference with experts in geopolitics, foreign policy, mercantile marine, technology, and climate change, discussing and deliberating on 5 major themes, can give more insights and help in discussions to formulate policy recommendations in the future. Without any further ado, let me do the duty entrusted to me. First of all, I would like to thank the British High Commission in India, New Delhi, for partnering with CPPR to organize the conference on India-UK partnership in the Indo-Pacific. This conference is a culmination of the partnership between these 2 organizations, representing the 2 nations. We are grateful to have this opportunity to collaborate with the British High Commission in India and bring you all a day full of dialogue, enriching discourse, and visionary insights. On behalf of the British High Commission, we have Mr. David White, Political Department, British High Commission in India. We extend our sincere gratitude for his esteemed presence and for the insightful thoughts. We also have with us, we will be joined by Mr. James Godber, Deputy Head of the Mission from British Deputy High Commission, Bengaluru. We extend our sincere gratitude for his presence as well. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our guest, Mr. R. Prasannan, for gracing us with his presence and delivering an enlightening inaugural address. More often than ever, we all source our knowledge and information from the journalist, and Mr. R. Prasannan has led this path for a long time. Sir, your words have left an indelible mark on our minds and inspired us to look at things with a newer perspective. We appreciate the time and effort you have taken to join us here and share your knowledge and experience with us. We look forward to having you engage with us in the years to come as well. We would like to extend sincere thanks to the experts and delegates who have joined us all the way to Kochi from different parts of India at such a short notice. We know the wealth of knowledge you will be bringing today to the panel discussion will pave the way for future engagements and discourse between India and UK. I express my thanks to delegate participants from different institutions and organizations. Without our delegates, this conference would not be what we aim it for, an engaging dialogue between representatives from the 2 nations bringing their thoughts and perspective front and center. Special thanks to CPPR advisors and fellows who have joined us today. You are always a pillar of support and guidance to the team, day or night. Your expertise and commitment have been invaluable in helping us achieve our goals. I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to all our media friends who have come on invitation to cover the conference. We value your contributions and look forward to continuing our partnership in the future. Last but not the least, this conference would not have been possible with the tireless efforts of my dearest colleagues. I extend my sincere thanks to all the team members of CPPR who are working behind the scenes without missing a beat. Thank you once again. Hope all of you have a great time being a part of the conference. We hope to have a fruitful and engaging conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelima. Now I invite Dr. Shakila Shamsu to come forward to present a token of appreciation to the distinguished dignitary, Mr. R. Prasannan.